mind, your body, and your soul. It's right there in the Word. The Word of God will set you free. It's right there in the Word. Eternalizing is the key. It's right there in the Word. It's right there in the Word. It's right there in the Word.
Greetings, Word family, and welcome to another installment of There's a Word for That, the weekly word presentation that's part of the Hymns with Phil Carter Fellowship. I'm Pastor Cynthia Turner-Wood, and I'm delighted that you've joined us one more time. Let's go ahead and get to work. I want to talk today from the subject, Don't Make It Easy for Sin to Get You. Don't make it easy for sin to get you. And it comes from the writer of Hebrews, who says, Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. That's Hebrews 12, verse 1. And the sin which so easily entangles us. It's kind of like when you think about it, in a few days we'll be celebrating Juneteenth, also called Black Liberation Day, that holiday that commemorates June 19th, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce the abolishment of slavery in the state. The only problem was slavery had been abolished 2 years earlier. It was 2 years that they had been granted freedom that they did not know they had. 2 years of staying in bondage and enslavement because they did not know any better. I just came by today to let you know that you have been granted freedom, that you have been granted release from the sin that so easily entangles us. You've been granted a way out, a way of escape. You don't have to live under that pressure anymore. And I don't want you to take 2 years longer or any longer before you realize that he who the Son has set free, she who the Son has set free is free indeed. The problem with sin in our lives, apart from the fact that it separates us from God, which is bad enough in and of itself, but the other problem with sin is that it weighs us down so that we cannot live and move and have our freedom in God as God would desire for us. Because sin is a detractor. It subtracts from our lives. It disrupts. It lures you in with its wonderful, delicious enticements, and then it hems you up in ways where there seem to be no way of escape. Sin does not always look like sin on the front end. You know that. It comes disguised as harmless and popular and trendy, but when it comes out of its disguise, after it has aroused your senses, after it has lifted your expectations and stirred your highest emotions, sin will drop you low and leave you high and dry and turn its back on you and leave you bearing the weight and the heaviness of all of the failure and all of the distraction. You have been freed from sin as you believe in Jesus Christ. That's what the writer is declaring here. He says you've got to be careful about letting things weigh you down because you'll get off course and you won't be able to finish the race. So here's the message. The writer of Hebrews says, lay aside every weight and sin that so easily besets us. You hear that part, easily? Sin has an easy job with us, but we can't we can't make it easy for sin to do the work that sin wants to do in our lives. He says it so easily besets us. What's he talking about? In other words, he's saying it's really not that deep. It's really not that complicated. Some of us are so quick to take offense that all that anybody has to do is sneeze wrong or look at us wrong or whatever wrong. And then we have already gotten offended and we feel carry this anger and bitterness towards it's easy stuff. The easy things that can beset us. They can look at you wrong. They don't even have to work hard to get us off track, to have us saying cuss words or thinking bad thoughts. He's talking about the easy stuff that people can do to grieve us and to make us mad over stuff that we really should not allow so easily to get to us. The typical offenses that happen in our lives every day. Somebody bumps you, somebody does something, somebody disses us in a way that we think they did it on purpose, or even if they did, don't let it be so easy for them to get to you. the typical offenses about, I read a story about a man who pulled a gun on a Starbucks employee because she did not put cream cheese on his bagel. A gun because of cream cheese on a bagel. So he drove back through the drive-through, angry and out of sorts, and demanded that she put the cream cheese on the bagel. What he did not know is that as he demanded that of her at gunpoint, he didn't realize that she was the daughter of the sheriff. And so she called her daddy, and now he's facing serious charges over a bagel and some cream cheese. The sin that so easily besets us. Now, I don't know what else was going on in his life. I don't know what issues and problems he was concerned with, but I do know that we've got to be careful about not letting things like that upset us. He was too easily besotted. That's the word that the Bible would use. He was besotted so easily. He let the small stuff turn into a big problem. But the writer is not just warning us against the simple stuff. He's also saying even the justifiable stuff. There's a problem right there. That's a challenge. That's even a greater challenge, because even though you may feel justified in your anger, even though you may be right about what they did to you was wrong, he says, watch out, because even though that is true, it's still a weight. It's still something we carry that is so hard. It's Father's Day is coming up, and many of us may have feelings toward fathers who did not represent in the way that we wanted them to. That's a weight. It's justifiable that we should feel that way, but you don't want that to beset you. You don't want that to stumble you. You don't want that to be a weight that you carry through life. Yes, it's a burden, and yes, it's hard, but you don't want to end up drinking the poison, even though the other person was wrong as two left shoes. You got to be careful not to let what they did make you ill. For example, have you ever been wronged or offended or maligned or lied on by somebody, and you found out about it? They lied on you. They told a lie. They know it was a lie. You know it was a lie. It's one of the most seductive feelings in all of the world to hold on to a grudge and to feel bad feelings for the person who did that thing. And it's even natural to want revenge or to see something bad happen to them. Maybe it's a spouse who did you wrong in the marriage, a friend who behaved in unfriendly ways, a sibling who did not show brotherly or sisterly love. Whatever it is, it's easy to hold on to, because you were right and you feel that they were wrong. But little do we know, the real danger in holding on is not on them. The danger is with holding on is on us, is that it is eventually what we were so ready to hold on to and not forget becomes so attached to us that instead of us holding on to it, it becomes the very thing that is holding on to us. What we won't let go of actually won't let go of us. We're actually holding up the very thing that is weighing us down. My God, we're giving somebody the bullets and the gun to shoot us and to kill us when we could be walking away in freedom and the joy of knowing even though they did wrong, we won't be so easily beset by it. We won't let it grab hold to us, because the longer we hold on to those unhealthy feelings toward them, the longer we are blocking ourselves from having joy and access to the wonders and the liberation that Christ has come for us. I was watching an episode of watching the movie 42 some time ago, that Jackie Robinson story with Michael B. Jordan playing the lead. It showed how Jackie Robinson had to confront incredible abuses and odds along the way. You need to watch it if you haven't seen it. He had name calling. He was being hit on purpose with fastballs, rejected, isolated, blatant outright discrimination, heckling, hatred, public humiliation, all of that for a man who excelled in baseball, all kinds of offenses that only a few of us would even be able to withstand. But what kept resonating throughout this movie was this line: I was built to last. I was built to make it through. I was built not to let something so easily beset me. Not that the thing is easy, but that it's easy for it to get us off track. if we allow it to do that. Built to last means that every time one of those rocks was thrown at him and the temptation to throw it back was so real, he could not afford to do it because he was built to last. Lest he forfeit his future, he could not retaliate because he was built to last. He was building something else while they were throwing the rocks at him. He was built to last, and he couldn't pick up and carry the thing that they had thrown at him lest he get too weighted down and would not be able to finish the race. The best thing he could do was to show that he was built to last by taking every one of those stones and every one of those bricks and building it for his future, building it for the pathway toward where he was going, building it for what God had called him to do. How easy and justified he would have been to carry the grudge, to hold the vengeance and the anger and the unforgiveness and the brokenness and the shame and the humiliation. How easy it would have been for him. It's like having a toothache and walking around in shoes too small when your feet hurt and everything about you responds to that. Your movements are even different because you're trying to walk softly and gingerly. That's what it's like to carry around what other people are trying to lay on us. You can't compartmentalize it. You can't ignore it. It impacts your whole body. Well, that's what the writer is trying to get us to understand. This stuff is so powerful, and it's an easy tactic for the enemy to use, that it so easily can get to us. The enemy knows what it takes to get to us, and we cannot afford to make it easy for sin to get to us. This stuff is so powerful, we need to let it go as quickly as possible. Y'all know one of my favorite actors is Denzel Washington. Well, in The Great Debaters, a line from the young trainees that he was teaching how to do debates, they had to internalize this line to nurture them when they felt unsure of themselves. Here it goes. Henry Lowe asked the question, who is the judge? James Farmer said the judge is God. Henry Lowe said, and why is he God? And James Farmer said, because he decides who wins or loses, not my opponent. And Henry Lowe said, who is your opponent? And James Farmer answers, he doesn't exist. Henry Lowe says, and why doesn't he exist? James Farmer answers, because he is a dissenting voice to the truth that I speak. I control the future based on who God says I am and not who somebody else says I am. They can call me whatever they want to call me, but I know who I am in Jesus Christ. I know that I am a child of God. I know that I have been created in God's image. I know that I am a daughter of God, and in whom the Lord, I believe, and I want to say is well pleased. Come on now, and you know that about yourself too. Don't you dare let anybody else try to tell you otherwise. But here's the other thing. We want to be careful not to let somebody else's lie destroy the truth that God has placed inside of you. But here's the other thing. That's not the only thing that can get to us, not their lies, but we can also get sidelined easily when the stuff we carry in us becomes the stuff we carry on us. You ever seen anybody so weighted down with stuff? Not physically, but you can see it, that they even walk weighted down. That's what the author is talking about here. Don't let that so easily beset us. As a result, we jump out of the game. We throw up our hands. We call it quits. It's kind of like the story about that sheep named Shrek. It's an old story, not the fictional green monster that we know of from the movies, but this was Shrek, a real live sheep in New Zealand who evaded the shepherd's care for so long that his wool grew and grew and grew until he was nearly unrecognizable. He was just one great big fat whopping ball of wool. For 6 years, he hid out in the caves of New Zealand in the countryside like a fugitive or a caveman or a hermit or a recluse. He just hid out. And at some point, he must have just given up on the whole herd and the social aspects of life and just went it alone. Don't we know some people like that? He just went it alone, foraging for his own food, not letting the shepherd lead him to still waters, not letting the shepherd create spaces for him to lie down to rest, not under the shepherd's care. He decided, because of whatever things in life, he decided he was going to go it alone. So his wool, when sheep shearing time came, he didn't show up, and his wool just grew and grew and grew. He survived on his own all by himself. Now, here's the thing. They say an ordinary sheep can carry about 12 to 15 pounds of wool when it's sheep shearing time. But because Shrek had not had his wool sheared in so long, he was carrying 60 pounds of wool that could have been relieved from him. 6 years of untended growth, 6 years of extra weight that he did not have to carry. And can I tell you, church, that the reason he was carrying all that extra weight was the same reason we walk around carrying extra weight, that we take on the burdens that others have laid on us. We take on the labels. We take on the sin that so easily besets us. It's 2 years and we don't know that we've been granted freedom, or we have not accepted the freedom that we've been granted. I came by to tell you today that she who the Son sets free, he who the Son sets free is free indeed. You don't have to walk around carrying the weights and the burden. That's really the message this morning. And I know somebody saying, all right, preacher, I hear you, but how do I get rid of this extra weight? I do have offenses. I am mad at some people. I can't get over some stuff. I'm carrying some bitterness, and I don't want to take it another step further. I don't want to be burdened and weighted down. I don't want the stuff that I pick up or that was brought to me. I don't want to carry that around for another year or 2 years. Well, I'm glad you asked me. Some weight and sin is within our power to lay aside. Do you hear me? You've got the power to lay aside some weight and sin. We can just decide to let it go and get over it. We've got to decide, I'm not going to let that bother me anymore. I'm not going to deal with that anymore. I'm not going to carry that burden around anymore, and feel the freedom that will be granted to us when we do that. But I realize that there's other stuff, that stuff that's so heavily attached to us, that's grabbed hold to us for a while, that it will only take the grace of God, the Good Shepherd, the Father of us all, to be able to release us from it. But I came by to tell you some good news, that God's got enough grace to release you from whatever it is that's holding on to you. God's got enough. God will not exhaust the supply of grace that is available to you. I came to let somebody know this morning that the Father is a good shepherd, and he's in the house. He's brought his shearers, and he's ready to go, because it's the shepherd's job to help the sheep not to remain weighted down. It's the shepherd's job to help the sheep to let it go. But here's the thing, when Shrek was found, he was walking around carrying all that unnecessary baggage that he did not need to carry, and would not have to carry if he had just taken the time to visit the shepherd. Well, I lift that up for us as we transition from the old to the new, as we transition and finish unfinished business, as we take care of those things we need to take care of. I'm letting you know that you can let it go, because you have the advantage over all of those who have gone before us, who were oppressed and never got relief. The text says we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. They didn't have the advantage of time that we have. They didn't have the insight and the opportunity for the relief that we have. They are already gone to the other side, some of them without ever having the benefit of laying aside the things that we have. But you are still here. You've got an opportunity. Some of them did not get the news that they were free, but you're getting the news. You have a chance to live an unweighted down life. But here's the other thing. Laying aside the weight and sin will allow you to have a brand new life, that you don't have to physically die in order to live. You can live on this side. You can have the joy and the freedoms on this side. You can enjoy the benefit of the kingdom in the here and now. The Good Shepherd is willing to work with you and to talk with you and to lift those weights off of you and lay them down so that you don't have to carry them anymore. I don't know about you, but I'm glad about it, because there were times when I felt like what the psalm writer said, I would have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Well, we have a shepherd who loves us and who will leave the 99 to come and see about the weighted down one. We have a shepherd who says, when we can't take it anymore, come unto me, all of you who are weak and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says, I know my sheep and my sheep know me. He says, I am the good shepherd. The shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. David understood that and declared, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul." Have your soul restored today. Lay aside every weight and sin that so easily trips us up. Because whenever we stray far away from the shepherd for too long, we will end up carrying that weight. But I want you to know today that you can be free. You can let it go. That God's got the shears, and God can take all the extra weight and wool that we are carrying around, all of that, and remove it from us. Listen, thank you so much for tuning in today for this message. Thank you so much. I pray that you were blessed. This is Pastor Cynthia Turner Wood. I'll see you next week for another installment of There's a Word for That. Until then, know that whatever the issue is, there is a word for that. For the grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God shall stand forever. May the Lord God bless you real good. I'll see you next time. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers on this Sunday. God bless you.